I'm going to open it up. There's nothing worse than attending a webinar that's very sort of one way, very one dimensional, no opportunity to actually quiz and probe and chat and that sort of thing. So that's what we're going to do. That's how we're going to run this session. We've got a number of stragglers. I'm going to be admitting those people in as they come in. But welcome to you guys who are, you're on time, you're looking good. It's a Tuesday. Everyone's looking remarkably fresh for a bank holiday weekend, post-bank holiday weekend, Tuesday morning. So well done for that. Couple of bits of housekeeping. I am recording this. Now, what I'm recording it so that I can send it on to you, lovely people. So you can, and I'll send the transcription and that sort of thing, so you can see what was talked about and who said what. And if you want to get in contact with people, you can do. If you don't want to be videoed, please feel free to switch your camera off, but have your mic on because it is important. You know, I want this to be a discussion and be interactive. We've all got opinions and ideas on how things should be done and what's going on. And sometimes these activities are opportunities to share particular problems and issues. And you know, more often than not, a solution is on the call. What I like to do at the start of each one of these sessions is to go around the room, ask you to unmute your mic and put your camera on if it's not already on. And someone's picking up some background noise, Mark, you're saying. Is that right? So, who is the culprit? Who is in the middle of who's on this call in the middle of a busy Costa coffee? Let's have a look. Right. Well, I shall have to go randomly. Everyone mute for the moment, then. If you could, apart from me, obviously. I shall mute everyone. There we go. Right. Deadly quiet. You could hear a pin drop. Right. So one by one, I will ask you to unmute, and I'll ask you to say your name, where you work, what you do there. And because we're talking about award-winning transformation, service transformation, digital transformation, innovation, I'm going to ask you a piece of service transformation that you feel your organisation should win an award for. And I'm going to start with Andrew Brown. Good morning, Andrew.
Good morning, Nick.
Morning.
Yeah, I work for Bath and North East Somerset Council. I'm a senior developer, and I've been working in a transformation team for children's services for the last couple of years, improving the front door primarily, and how we get cases referred through and into our systems. So I'd have to nominate that one.
And how's that? I won't extend this too long, but you're working in a service area that tends to be, you know, there tends to be sort of a sharp intake of breath when people talk about, you know, sort of service transformation and digitally innovating in that area. Have you found the last couple of years working in that space?
Yeah, I mean, we're not all the way through because in the next phase is when there's all external partners as well to factor in. But the part we've done already, I think they were very keen to have us improve it. There was a lot of form filling in, Word documents being sent around with emails, that sort of thing. And now it is more efficient with a digital front end. So yeah, it's gone quite well.
What back office system are they using for children's services there, if you don't mind me asking?
It's Liquid Logic.
Liquid Logic.
Yeah.
It is a service area ripe for disruption, I think, some of those back office providers. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the system is, yeah, it was just getting information into the system, which is what we focused on.
Right, okay, brilliant. Great to have you with you, Andrew. Karen Hunter, good morning.
Good morning. So we have to make a quick dash there for the mute button. So I'm Karen Hunter. I work at South Somerset District Council, and I'm a business planning and relationship specialist. So what that means is essentially I'm the the conduit between the service areas and the business and into the digital team, so kind of translating requirements backwards and forwards. I've been in that role for a year. This is my first time attending one of these meetings. I think you might have met my colleague Toffa previously.
Yes.
So I work alongside Toffa. So yeah, so we, as you probably know, we're going through a unitary process at the moment. So many of the digital solutions that we put in place over the last 2-3 years are now being unpicked as we move into that new environment. So we were able, probably about a year and a half ago now, we were able to do a massive channel shift and move all our reporting processes over to our website so that we took the calls away from the service desk and encourage people to go online, and that in itself has been a huge success. But because we're going through this unitary now, we're now unpicking all that. We're going back on a lot of the strategies that we actually put in place, having for example, a golden customer record. That's as we move into the new authority, we're not trying to do that channel shift anymore. So everything's kind of in a little bit of a flux now. So I would have said, if you'd asked me the question a year ago before we were going into the unitary, we probably had a lot of initiatives that we'd been successful in implementing, but now we're going back to the start. So interesting times.
Right. Okay. Well, great to have you here, and welcome to your first activity with us. We'll make sure it's a beneficial one for you. David Martin, good morning.
Hi, I'm David Martin. I work.
You're a bit, David. You sound like you're in a box.
That's better now.
That's better. Yeah.
Bring the headphones down. Beam me up, Scotty. Yeah. David Martin, East Devon District Council, performance and data analyst. I started about 4 months ago, and at this current stage, just trying to set a baseline of where everything sits within the council to understand how we use data, how we want to measure performance, how we want to change things. The team's just expanded by taking somebody on who's going to be responsible for the digital transformation. So I'm going to support them in understanding how we can bring in better use of FirmStep, better understanding of the process mapping, and trying to be more efficient with customer service and all our processes.
Anything you've seen that would be award-winning thus far?
Not yet.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
You're honest. Thank you. Lewis McDonald. Good morning.
Good morning. So I work for East Ayrshire Council as a digital assistant. I'm fairly new. I've only been working for about 5 or 6 weeks now, so I'm not involved in any kind of major projects or anything as of yet. So I can't really, unfortunately, my knowledge is kind of limited. I can't really provide anything that I could recommend for the council that could win an award or anything, unfortunately. This is more just a sort of general learning experience for myself.
Excellent. Well, you will learn lots, and then you can go off and go and spot all those award-winning transformations in your authority. And I'll expect you to report back at some point, Lewis. But yeah, great to have you with us. Good morning, Sally Moss. How is it in Swindon?
Morning. Yes, Sally Moss, Digital Transformation Lead at Swindon Borough Council. I'm just trying to think what I would suggest for Swindon. We've got quite a lot going on at the moment, but probably award-winning wise, I would say it's our household waste recycling centre process, which has been a really collaborative and iterative process from coming out of the pandemic and having to develop a booking form, an online booking form for people to actually visit the recycling centre, which then we progressed to installing a smart barrier for people to access the site alongside their booking, which now we've transformed to to send out QR codes to people, so it's a completely unmanned online process now, end to end, from people booking their slots to actually getting on site and leaving their waste. So yeah, I would say that's probably the best one that we've got example of at the moment.
Do you find everyone manages with QR codes? Seems
to be so far. Yeah. I think people are quite familiar with that process. It's everywhere these days, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
yeah. Any, I think most phones now have QR readers built in, don't they? Whereas before, when they
Yeah.
did first come out, you had to actually download a QR code
Yeah.
reader as an app, as opposed to it sort of being built in. Well, great to see you, and send my regards to Sarah when you see
Thank
her.
you, will do.
Tim Rowe, good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing? Okay. My name's Tim. I'm from Cornwall Council. I'm sort of sat here representing Sam Dusto, who wasn't able to attend. And I'm not really sure what I'm doing here, but so I'm just interested to see what it's all about. I work for the address management team under Sam, and so we deal with the LLPG, LSG, and the integration of the UPRN into all the different systems. So I was thinking award-winning wise, I think a lot of it would be past glories when we became Unitary about 2009. We integrated all the different district and county systems all into one, and the UPRN underpinned all that. So there was a lot of kind of work done to bring lots of data sets together and stuff off spreadsheets and all kinds of things. So yeah, that's my sort of my work is very much focused on address management and stuff, so I don't really get involved in projects and things.
But Tim, you're underplaying a role, because any organisation doing place-based transformation, you are the linchpin, surely.
Well, that's it. Yeah,
You
that's
are
the line we've got to put it
master.
with.
You are the master. You
Yeah.
have all the treasure and access to it. So great to have you with us, Tim.
That's all right.
I need to actually have more content around, gazetting, LPG, and that sort of thing. So really good to have you here, and be great to have you comment on some of the stuff that we're going to hear about. So great to have you here. Good morning, Donna Smith in Stevenage. I'm assuming you're in Stevenage. You're at Stevenage Borough Council.
Morning, everyone. I'm actually in Lincolnshire because that's where I live.
All right, brilliant.
So I'm at home today.
Excellent.
Hi, everyone. I'm Donna Smith. I'm Head of Customer Services for Stevenage Borough Council. Award-winning, not so sure, but we're very early days transformation. But what I would say is momentum has suddenly really kicked in, and the business overall is kind of knocking on transformation's door proactively, saying, come and help us. We've got this situation and we've got reducing resources, and now's the time to really help us. So really busy in terms of trying to look at what support we can put in, because we don't want to say no to anybody or not now. So we're kind of trying to work with services and encourage that enthusiasm. So that's really lovely to see. But we have done some great stuff around, again, refuse and recycling. So that was the old-fashioned system kind of just over a year ago. So we've put in integration between Granicus, or FirmStep as you might know it, and our refuse and recycling system, which has been really great for driving down some of that kind of failure demand type calls.
Excellent, Donna. Great to have you with this, and I'll be sort of coming to you at some point, because we are going to talk about digital capability and capacity and that sort of thing. I'd be interested to know how you manage that with everyone. I mean, it's great that everyone wants support.
Finally,
that does create its own particular set of issues,
it
doesn't
does.
it? So great to have you with us. Stuart Goodin, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. So yes, Stuart Goodin from West Sussex County Council. Apologies, I joined late, so I don't actually know the question.
All right, so sorry. Right. So you just tell it. Well, you've already introduced yourself and where you work, and then because we're going to be talking to a couple of award-winning local authorities. I was asking people, what piece of service transformation, or even a couple of bits, do you feel that the organisation has delivered, maybe over the last few years, that should be given an award?
Okay, well, I've been with West Sussex County Council for the last 12 months, and a couple of the projects that I've been heavily involved in, we have been unable to complete because the IT technology we currently have has not really been fit for purpose to handle some of the more complex automated workflows that we've been looking to implement within the council. So really what I'm looking for out of this session is really to hear the experiences of other local authorities and really just use it as an information source.
Stuart, I'm going to have to ask the question. You know, the capability, the technology, whose capability, can you share that with us?
We currently use Granicus, and we've been looking at doing implementing some automated workflows, in particular within the pupil entitlement area of the organisation. And due to the complexity of some of the workflows that the pupil entitlement team do manually, to replicate that within the automation we currently have has just proved a step too far.
Right. Okay. Brilliant.
And really, we're now embarking on a transformation program here at West Sussex, where we're procuring a whole heap of new technology, which we're hoping will be able to give us the solutions that we're desperately looking for.
Brilliant. Okay. Excellent. Thanks for that, Stuart. Good to have you with us. Matthew Steer, good morning.
Good morning. Sorry, I arrived late as well. But a
that's
colleague
all right.
of mine.
No, that's fine. The gist. It's
I did. Yeah. No, that's fine.
And then an award-winning piece of work. Or
yeah. So Andrew Brown. Absolutely. Yeah. So Andrew Brown is already connected, who has introduced himself. So I'm similar to him, similar role, senior programmer at Bath and North East Somerset Council. Yeah, it's actually been quite a lot of work I've been involved with. One in particular is mobile app for pest control, which is a unique proposition that actually went live just before the pandemic. So you can imagine, you know, sort of a lot of people had sort of hours to get out of their offices, if not sort of around sort of March the 16th, 2020. So one of the goals with the mobile app was to obviously provide offline support, but also for the officers out and about in the field. So why I would say that's award-winning is just because we've had a number of authorities, North Somerset, other places, Gloucestershire, come to us wanting the same solution, because there isn't a solution out there. So I've also been involved with free school meals, which again is probably award-winning in the sense that, you know, I'm sure a lot of us have been having to firefight that. We've developed a unique solution whereby we basically reuse all the registrations from before, so there's no overhead. We, you know, I think last drop a couple of weeks ago, we had like almost 2,000 registrations happen within a matter of hours without any mediation. And also we're providing as sort of an Azure front door, so to speak, into our subsystem. So a lot of these, you know, I guess we'll talk about that today. A lot of the security behind the way we manage within the council is very limited, isn't it, to the employers. So when you want to provide an external solution or shared resource, it becomes very hard, because then you have to talk to a number of people who will say no. So we're now moving our tenant. We've now got our tenant in Azure, which basically means that we can authenticate in the cloud, but also provides the ability to provide third-party authorization. So you could have Gmail, you could have another set of tenants, which then provides a way back into our internal resources. So we can then start sharing out all these solutions that I've just been talking about.
Brilliant. Cheers, Matthew. Great to have you with us. Thank you very much. Stuart Gordon, good morning. Just put your camera on. You must have, that's almost like telepathy, that. You must have, you knew next.
Just about. Yeah, good morning. Stuart Gordon, Programme Technology Officer for Bedford Borough Council. So I'm responsible for developing and delivering the digital strategy for the council. In terms of award winning, we've been running our sort of digital portal for about 5 years now, based foundationed on Microsoft Dynamics. And we're just literally reviewing that technology strategy at the moment to actually work out what we're doing with our second generation of that environment. So working with a lot of the manufacturers out there to actually understand how the offerings have changed over the last 5 years since the last time we had to look at the marketplace.
Excellent. Cheers, Stuart. Right, so Colin Harris, are you there? There you are, brilliant.
I'm indeed, yes. Colin Harris, Website Operations Manager, Buckinghamshire Council. last couple of years, we've been moving into Unitary. Most of our efforts have been involved in consolidating five different sites, 5 different systems into a single system. We are far from being complete in that journey. But yeah, I think we all deserve a medal here for just trying to do all of that. Our Unitary happened more or less the day of COVID. So we've been firefighting ever since, sort of never necessarily having met all of our colleagues, our new colleagues, for all of that time. It's getting a bit better now, though. But thankfully, we're able to get in rooms and things.
I think that's great, Colin. That everyone at Bucks gets it. You know, you could have been selfish and gone for something that you've just been working yourself, but everyone getting a medal, I think, is fantastic. Thank you very much indeed, and great to have you on the call with us. Diksha, good morning. There you are.
Good morning. Hello. Yes, so just like everyone else, I think I'm really keen to pick up any learnings from other colleagues and councils. I'm in a hybrid role at the moment, so I'm an IT business partner and a business change business partner. A lot of the transformation within Bracknell Forest Council, which is where I'm from, it has been sort of IT led. Some of the change projects that we've been running, I wouldn't necessarily say are transformational. So I'm trying to bring a change to that, really, where IT are enablers for some of this work that we're doing or planning to do. I'm not sure that they're the best people to be leading them, because they have a very technological mindset and vision for that. So yeah, some of the things that I think we've done at Bracknell so far that could be award-winning is certainly our move from on-prem, our servers move from on-prem to the cloud. We've got 99% of our estate in the cloud now over quite a short time frame. We're now looking at optimizing servers, etc., especially test and train servers. And also our deployment of SharePoint, which we've now got as a corporate EDRMS system. Wasn't easy to push out to the whole organisation, but has worked nonetheless.
Excellent. Good to have you with us, Diksha.
Thank you.
And finally, Sally Truman.
Morning.
Good morning.
Sorry, couldn't make you work on the laptop again, so I hope you can see me. Yeah, Sally Truman from South Oxfordshire in the Vale of Whitehorse District Councils. I'm here very much from a customer service angle. We're just starting our customer transformation review. So I'm here really just to see what other councils have done. So being right at the very beginning of that process, I can't offer anything that is potentially award-winning yet. Ask me in a couple of years' time. I'm
sure you're doing yourself a disservice there, Sally. I'm sure if we all wanted to, we could all say we've done something that's award-winning. But I love the humility of it, so I won't push you. And welcome to another session. You're most welcome. Right, we've got a few other people on the call. Let's just quickly speak to our friends. So there's a lot of common denominators with our two sets of speakers today. They're in the southwest. They both have been very busy. Their sort of transformation activity, I think, in earnest has been carried out. I guess both would say over the pandemic period. They both use or have both implemented Netcall's Liberty Create low-code platform in a sort of local government as a platform type strategy. So I'll come to Mark first. Mark, good morning. Introduce yourself. And in fact, tell you what, with you guys, what's the best award you've ever won personally? I think let's, and if you wish to bring a bit of hilarity into the session, it doesn't necessarily have to be it could be a wooden spoon for something. But introduce yourself, tell everyone who you are.
Morning, everybody. My name is Mark Gannon. I'm Director of Client Solutions for the Public Sector for Netcall. Been with Netcall for about 3 months. Prior to that, I worked over 20 years in local government, the last 5 of which were as CIO and Director of Transformation at Sheffield City Council. So I endorse the giving an award to everybody who got local authorities through the pandemic. I'm all for that. The best award I ever won was the 1979 Derry City Council Christmas painting competition, for which I got a £30 book token, which in 1979 was a pretty
that's quite a
decent
lot,
prize.
yeah. Can you remember what you painted?
No.
Oh, it would have been great.
Only beaten by me getting something in the gallery on Take Heart.
You got something in the gallery on Take Heart?
I did.
Right, so I would have had that as my front runner, but excellent. Great to have you with us, Mark. David Tweddle, good morning.
Morning all. Yeah, I work with Mark, David Tweddle, one of the account managers at Netcall. I tend to work with local authorities in Scotland and the north of England, but yeah, really interested to hear kind of what the discussion is going to be about this morning. In terms of winning an award, I haven't won much in my life. I once got paid £2 by the Crankies for borrowing my bike back in the 80s. Does that count, Nick?
But they borrowed your bike?
They borrowed my bike when I was about 8, yeah. For filming. They needed a bike for filming, and I was watching on my bike. They said, "Can we borrow your bike?" I said, "Yeah, okay." And they gave me £2.
Blimey. I mean, that's a pretty big accolade, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Pretty big accolade. Excellent. Thanks, David. Recover from that one. Andrew Walker. Andrew Walker, good morning.
Hi, Andrew Walker from Netcall, an account director for local government. So just really, as Mark and David, really keen to hear what's happening and what people are saying. In terms of awards, I think similar to David, I haven't won much over my lifetime, other than at a school disco, I did the best Michael Jackson impression, but that's about it, really.
Now try and picture that, if you will. Peter.
Yeah, so there you go.
Doing the best Michael Jackson impression, and you didn't lend anything to a disgraced comedy duo from the 70s or 80s at all.
No, I didn't. No, sorry, no, can't claim.
How very unfortunate. But yeah, well done on the Michael Jackson impression. Jim Davis is asking, have you still got the white glove?
No, sorry, Jim, I can't share that or lend that to you.
Honest question. Anyway, excellent, great. Right, so what we're going to do is the Crankies remain undisgraced for the record. Right, yes, allegedly. I should have put, on the end of my all right, so we're going to hear from our award winners now. But first of all, I think just because, to follow on from the Crankies and Andrew's unlikely Michael Jackson impression award, we're going to come to Tewkesbury. Would you like to unmute? See if you can do it en masse. There we go. Greetings all. So I think we've got Joe and Claire and Amy. Obviously, we know you've won an award. So if you could introduce yourselves, and then let's have your personal awards, please.
Yeah, so I'm Joe Cole, I'm lead digital officer. I was trying to think, what award have I won? I genuinely don't think, I have won an award in my life. A bit of a cop out, I know, but I do spend most of my time hidden away in a room with a desk, and it's not really a surprise to me I haven't won anything. But there you go.
But you have now.
Yeah. Well, true. As a team.
And we will hear about that later. But thanks, great to see you, Joe. And Amy, good morning.
Morning, I'm Amy. I'm the programme officer at Tewkesbury Council. I'm going to go right back in reception. I won the courtesy cap for my year. That's about it.
Excellent. Well done, you. And finally, Claire.
I think it's just as well we've won this award, because I also have to go right back to school. I used to win quite regularly actually each year the 100-metre sprint at school. So I've got that. But I'm Claire, I'm Corporate Services Manager at Tewkesbury.
Tewkesbury obviously weren't there people too hard. You don't have hobbies or other interests in which you can win awards. So that's it. You're never allowed away from the grindstone. Okay, well, we will come back to you in a moment. But now let's speak to Jim. Good morning, Jim. Tell everyone who you are.
Morning, I'm Jim Davis. I'm the Customer Improvement Manager for South Hams and West Devon Councils.
and the best award you've ever won.
Best award. Well, I do remember when I was about 7, I won a poetry reading competition, and the I beat my senior school biology teacher's son, who was the same age as me. And for the 7 years of my senior school career, she always used to go on about me and her son being in competition with each other. I never had any idea who he was, no idea whatsoever. But it was a rivalry for the ages, supposedly in her mind.
Created by poetry as well. Who could have thought that poetry could create that sort of, that sort of competitive streak?
It was a poem about a queen bee.
In only your biology teacher.
Yeah.
How interesting. Thanks, Jim. And finally, Mr. Ward. Good morning, Mr. Ward.
Morning.
What
So,
you must have a plethora of awards to choose from.
well, I think we've probably got a cabinet full of iEasy awards, haven't we, Jim? But I mean, personally, I won 30 quid on the lottery a few months ago, and that was really rewarding, actually.
It is a reward, but it's not our ward, is it?
No,
You've got to play the game. We could have all said lottery wins, Mike. I'm gonna have to push
Oh,
this one, I'm afraid.
well, I did get a bottle of champagne for the best Zoom background a few months ago, and a call I think you were on as well, Nick.
Yes, you did. Well done.
That was very satisfying.
I think you'll get away with that.
Yeah.
Dave
So-
Treadle, though, if this was a competition, you've won with your Crankies bike lending activity. That truly is, it has knocked me for 6. Anyway, right. What we've got on this, we've got 2 incredible local authorities on this session who have both just recently won Best Transformation Team awards. And what's interesting, I think, also is that a lot of the work they are being recognised for has been delivered during the pandemic. And if I'm right in saying, Claire, I'll come to you first. Your transformation team, you didn't, you were actually working virtually once you sort of got the go ahead and kicked off, weren't you?
Yeah, so our management team decided to invest in a transformation team in 2019, but then the pandemic hit and everybody that was already existing in the council that was going to be part of that team was redeployed to support the pandemic response. So we didn't actually get together until August 2020. And since then, up until very recently, yeah, we've worked pretty much remotely as a team, which I think certainly myself, I anticipated to be quite challenging. But yeah, no, it's worked really, really well. And what we're finding now, I think, when we're now in the offices together, is it's just quite a nice thing. It doesn't necessarily improve what we're delivering, but it's just it's a different way of working. But yeah, so we've done pretty much everything virtually.
Do you think that's sort of lent, because quite a few people have talked about the fact that virtual teams, whilst there are a lot of downsides, but it has actually meant it's broken down barriers of seniority, availability. Have you found that sort of to be true with your team?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as a team, I think we decided to invest in really regular meetings and catch-ups and kind of just to it was the first time we were working together. So that whole getting that bond as a team was really important. So we did invest in regular meetings. But I think even as a team working with other services, because, we work right across the council, working virtually does mean that people are more available at short notice. It's much easier to kind of do ad hoc meetings. The software we use as well to deliver some of the stuff that we're doing means actually working virtually isn't a problem. It works. It enhances the collaboration between us and other teams. So yeah, it's not been a bad experience.
And what's the makeup of the team then? So the transformation team consists of who and what are their roles?
Yeah, so we have, so obviously myself as operational manager, the transformation team sits outside of IT, and that was part of the decision in terms of pulling together a transformation team, was actually to some of the roles that now sit in the transformation team were in IT. So we've pulled that across into a more customer focused team. So Joe, who's our lead digital officer, he was sitting in IT previously. Joe oversees the technical side of the team, and sitting in there we have another digital developer, a business analyst, a web and digital designer, and an apprentice. We also have 2 program officers. So Amy is one of them, and we've also got another, and they're very much looking at the project management side of things, so pushing forward the project delivery. We also have recently been given reserves to invest in some temporary posts. So we, in fact, starting today, we have another business analyst. We have recently appointed a web and digital developer part-time. And who have I forgotten? Project support. Yeah, so we've got a temporary post to help us with our project support, because I think we were finding that alongside what we're delivering, there is a lot of work that goes on in terms of presentations, applying for awards, like we invest a lot in our internal communications, so raising the profile of what we're doing, and all of that takes a lot of time. So we decided to invest in some support for the team, and so yeah, she starts in a few weeks.
So I'm sure a lot of the authorities on here, like I was doing just then, were, you know, that's an incredible team, isn't it?
Yeah.
For a borough council, you know.
Yeah,
got
I mean,
a team of, you know, I ran out of fingers, I think, and again, I didn't win any awards for maths, but so that you've obviously got significant buy-in from your senior management
we do,
team.
yeah, we do. And so prior to the team being in place, we had Joe as a single digital developer, and the pressure on him was immense. We were on a different platform, so the first big task that we as a team had was to move from our previous platform provider to Liberty Create. But when we were on our...
So what were you using beforehand?
We were on FirmStep.
Right, okay.
Yeah, and I think the frustrations that we had with FirmStep, coupled with the fact that we just didn't have any resource, meant that we just weren't making any progress. As a council, we had a lot of improvement projects piling up, but they just weren't moving forward. And so the timing worked quite well, really, because we had a project looking at the end of the contract with FirmStep, whether we wanted to replace it or look at alternatives. And so it all just kind of came together quite nicely. So by the time the transformation team came into being, we were ready. We decided that we were going with Liberty, and that was going to be its first big piece of work. But it does seem like a big team, and it's absolutely fantastic. But I do think the work that we've put into really promoting what we're doing, getting that buy-in from senior management, ensuring that staff right across the council and members really understand what we're doing and why we're doing it, that all of that takes a lot of time and a lot of effort, but it does mean that we are getting reinvestment back into the team as a result.
Excellent. And Donna, do you have that many people in your transformation team? Just
no. We do not.
Is it a fraction of that?
Yeah. Do you know what though? We are recruiting. So I mean, it's twofold, isn't it? So there's like the project program management type stuff, and we're looking at internal and external kind of transformation. Where we are struggling, I would say, is that digital development stuff, which you were just talking about. So we have 2 guys on the team. We do use FirmStep. It takes a long time to build that those skills and that expertise, and so we have 2. I mean, they're absolutely brilliant, and they work so hard with service areas, and they've got a lot of pull, but it's never enough. It just isn't enough resource. So they're currently kind of reevaluating that. And of course, if one of them goes, we're back to square one, because it's not kind of skills that you can buy in, can recruit into that easily.
Yeah. Oh, just Mark, do you want to ask that question? And people, feel free to if you want to ask people. You want to ask questions, whilst I'm chunnering on and asking questions, feel free to do so, because, the idea is to have a discussion. Tewkesbury, South Hams, West Devon have done some incredible stuff, but probably if you want to quiz them, you're probably better at framing the questions than I am. So feel free to unmic and ask your questions, like Mr. Gannon is about to do now.
Yeah, I'm just interested. I mean, there's always this perpetual challenge in local authorities where, you know, the sort of funding of a transformation team seen as a bit of an overhead, yet there are tons of efficiency gains just waiting to be taken, and potentially tons of cash waiting to be released. So I was just wondering, Claire, if you've kind of had some formal investor save proposals as part of your transformation program to help kind of fund and sustain the team, because it's a lot of the time these funding pots are sort of 2-year fixed term, and then by the end of that term it's kind of, you have to then make the case again. So just wondering what approach you've taken.
Yeah, we had to, while the transformation team, kind of the proposal was being pulled together, that's very much what we focused on, was actually, you know, this team, yes, it was going to be a new team that we would need to invest in, but actually the aim for the team was to deliver on efficiencies and savings, and we pulled together quite a range of examples of where we'd be able to do that. We were originally set up as a 2-year team, but we have just had confirmation that we are now permanent on the establishment, which is great. But we are, and we have committed to continuing to evidence what we're doing. So we do regular case studies for each new service that we work on. We produce a case study that outlines what we've achieved and what savings we've achieved, what time savings we've done, what efficiency we've created. And actually members have now specifically asked us to look at perhaps introducing an annual financial savings case study so that we can really just highlight the impact that we're having. So we're working on that at the minute. I think as a team, we've probably learned, well, one of the biggest lessons we've learned is that we perhaps didn't do enough of the upfront as is process mapping, really understanding what we were wasting as whether be it process, be it money, because we were so focused on moving on to our new platform, we didn't really invest enough in that. And, you know, we probably wouldn't have been able to anyway because of the time restrictions. But that's definitely what we are doing now as a team. We're understanding up front, well, what's the position of this service as it is now, so that we can then, once we've introduced the new one, really evidence our impact.
I think that's really smart, because I think often when you, especially if you're a small team and you've got a very focused plan, it's kind of, the temptation is just to kind of finish and then move on to the next thing, isn't it? But actually taking that time to just reflect on the achievements and actually make that visible to the people that are likely to be signing off budgets is really important. So I think that's really smart.
Yeah, definitely. I think we're quite lucky. Well, not lucky, I don't know, but Liberty Create has definitely enabled us to deliver on some new services that are making a massive impact, both in terms of the process and financial savings. So yeah, it's working well at the minute.
If you hold that thought, Claire, I'll come back to you about that, because I'll come back to you guys about that sort of the new services and where you're applying low code. That's great. Mr. Ward and Mr. Davis, if you'd like to unmic and unmute. Yeah, it's a similar question to you guys, because obviously, we've obviously sort of spoken numerous times at length before, and you guys went into the pandemic also having acquired a low-code platform and great aspirations to transform a number of service areas, but you'd also already sort of gone through a lot of pain in actually changing the organisational structure, which I think sort of supported that sort of innovation and speed. Do you want to just sort of summarise and bring people up to speed what happened there and how that supported the transformation team moving forward?
Well, I think our original transformation, if you like, back into 2013, 2014, first of all, held us in good stead for what was to come with the pandemic in terms of our remote working model. And after that, really, I think it was the getting Liberty Create sort of in the nick of time, I think, was really the making of us after the pandemic started, because we'd got a platform that we were enabled, but it allowed us to shine very early on, because we we could meet the ambitious targets, if you like, of the management and the members to delivering the COVID business grant payments, which was largely down to Jim's team. But that really was the making of the platform for us, and also for the rest of the organisation to really put it in the spotlight as being something that can demonstrably easily be shown to save us some money and to produce efficiencies and to deliver services quickly.
Jim, do you want to build on that?
Well, all I was going to say was that the big transformation that we went through back in, whatever it was, 2014, 15, or that sort of time frame. We had ideas for the software, and the software just wasn't capable. We were probably our concepts were probably 5 years ahead of what the software was capable of delivering. And it took a while for us to find the right software to actually do that. But that's been our real experience, is that we've been able to deliver what we wanted to deliver, rather than saying, what can the software do for us? Right. And then let's deliver that. We've been able to say, what do we want? And the software just delivers.
So what software were you using?
Beforehand, it's a small company called Civica.
Oh, right, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I've obviously read through both of yours and Tewkesbury's award application. I was quite interested to sort of quiz you about, you've distilled these 6 must-do habits. Do you remember that? What are those must-do habits? Do you remember them?
I can't remember off the top of my head. I've got them tattooed on my arm. Let me just
do as I say, not as I do, sort of thing. But yeah, so with regards to your transformation team, how many people are in the team? How's that structured?
So we have one lead developer, similar role to Joe, and then we have 2 other builders / business analysts. So the idea was that we had one person focused on this newly rehired role, but one person that was focusing on the building, and then one person that would do some building, but we focus more on the people side. To try and pull that along. We have one tester, because testing was a big pinch point for us. It was a big bottleneck, and people are rubbish at testing their own work. Basically, they make too many assumptions. And then we have a web editor as well, and then we have one trainer / support person, so that as we're pumping out new processes, she's constantly updating the staff if changes are being made, bringing back suggestions, all those sort of things, to keep work pumping through.
Now, just one of the next things, reading through your award, and I know we've talked about this before, this ongoing use of citizen feedback, and what I really like was that you've created a form. You've created a form in which success is not actually completing it.
Yes.
Yeah. So, just because I thought that was absolute. When I started to read it, I wondered where it was going. But then I got down to the end and thought, that's absolutely brilliant. So do you want to just explain that to people?
So yes, we have a general inquiry process that's designed to push people off into other things. So the measure of success is we don't want contact. Any what they say, all contact or all input is error or something. That we don't want people talking to us if we can possibly help it. So if we can push people off to either other processes, because most people don't know what councils do. So we get an awful lot of requests for work that should be sent to county councils or those sort of things. So we push the work in that direction. If we can push them on to another form so they can interact with us electronically, then we'll do that. And only if all those options can't solve their problem for them, then that's when they contact us. And actually we have someone physically look at the request, actually do the work, and then we can track where each of the forms are abandoned on system. And the vast majority of the ones that are abandoned, 80-90%, are abandoned at the stage where we're basically linking them off to other forms. And even that we can look at. I mean, originally we asked the customer their address and name and address earlier on in the form. A lot of people just give up at that stage and don't bother going any further. So we moved that part to the end of the form, so that actually they get all the useful part of the form first, and then only if they actually want to physically ask us questions, they have to then give us their name and address.
And are you able to quantify how much that particular form has saved the council by way of time and money? And
I seem to remember when I looked last time, about 6,000 times a month we've got a form that's been abandoned. So that would either end up becoming a phone call or an email, basically. And one of the things we really want to get away from is unsolicited email. People just asking us a question. We want to structure it so that we have the information required rather than just going back to them for pointless contact.
And Mike, just what has been, by way of culture within South Hams and West Devon, what's been the appetite for I guess this new way of working, this sort of platform approach, and you know, there's the speed at which you're delivering this transformation? Because I get the impression, I mean, I guess you know, not only have you implemented it, you procured, implemented, trained people, and then I read something like 90+ processes you delivered over the last 2 and a bit years, which is quite phenomenal. I'm assuming that the culture was ready for this, because nobody likes change, do they? Apparently. So.
Well, that's right, and we'd already been through monumental change anyway, and a fairly brutal sort of selection process to reshape the organisation anyway. So that those of us that were left were, you know, there was quite a bit of I suppose, a Dunker type spirit, you know, and we were all up for anything. We were all there because we wanted to be there. We'd worked hard to stay there, and anybody that didn't want to be part of the organisation, you would term the dead wood, if you like, had gone. So there was always an appetite to be ambitious, and there's an appetite to not be afraid of change, I suppose, or not be afraid of taking something and ripping it out and starting again. And the interesting thing about appetite is that at the beginning of the procurement, to determine whether we needed to change our platform to go for this low-code solution, we did an exercise with the senior management team as well to assess their appetite for risk and for change, which kind of, again, gets you that buy-in right from the get-go. So you know that there's some kind of understanding that there will be, you know, unforeseen costs, or there will be particularly disruption, there'll be a dip in performance, and for that acceptance to be there, so that you're not trying to make a migration or transformation without actually affecting the council or affecting performance. And it enables us to be honest and upfront about the issues that we'll face on the way to getting from A to B, because we'd seen how disruptive it could be when we did it the first time, moving everything into, you know, as was the Civica platform then, and the dips in performance that we suffered, and we just needed to establish whether that appetite was still there.
Right, and so yeah, because Andrew just previously asked a question for Jim. Jim, so did you move from Civica? So you moved from Civica to Liberty Create, did you?
Yes. Yeah.
And got rid of Civica. What was the Civica? What was just a general Civica platform, or Civica Flare, or? We
had APP and Workflow 360.
Okay. All right. Brilliant. Thanks. Claire, Tewkesbury, Amy, Joe. What was the? Let's because I quite like the. You know, we talked previously, previous activities about, you know, what are the right climate, you know, what are the right conditions within an organisation to really support and accelerate service transformation and change and innovation. So within Tewkesbury, when you've been, you know, sort of doing your low-code stuff and building up this sort of almost football team-like numbers of transformation team. What's the appetite been within Tewkesbury? Because obviously you've got your senior management buy-in. What's the rest of the organisation? What's their appetite been like?
I think it depends on the team. Sometimes some of our priorities are sort of set a bit more corporately. So then we all approach these teams and sort of take them from the beginning. And it obviously always works better if the idea has come from that team. They have more buy-in from the beginning if it's their idea initially. But on the whole, most of our teams have been really good, and we've sort of carried them from the beginning, really, and got their buy-in, and then they've worked together with us. So we haven't really had a team that's been really difficult, or we've had resistance, and we haven't come across that.
I think we decided, I think I mentioned earlier on, quite from the outset, to invest in regular communication. So we do a regular newsletter to staff, just kind of outlining what some of our recent successes have been. We meet quite regularly with our Transform working group, which is a group of members that are set up to look at the budget and transformation and things. So we have definitely taken an approach of regular engagement, just to keep that constant communication about what we're doing as a team and why we're doing it. And I think that has had quite a big impact in terms of bringing people along for that culture change. I think that has helped.
Yeah, I think when they can see what you've been able to achieve as well, I think that definitely helps. And you can really show them something as well. We've been doing a lot more designing up front recently than perhaps we did when we were in a bit of a rush to deliver before the Firmstep contract ended, and that's really helped to sort of inspire creativity with the different teams we're sitting down with. We do sort of wireframing and really sort of design out what the interfaces will look like, and I think people really get this. Think, wow, I can really see it now that you're sort of showing me something. It's hard to talk about it without that side.
Definitely.
Excellent. What I'd like to just understand, so Donna, I'm going to pick on you first, but I will come around to some other people. Donna, we've heard here, well, from Mike, it was basically a case of, if you're not up for getting involved in this, it's almost like, you're not coming along for the ride. Is there real appetite within Stevenage at senior level for this sort of stuff, or is it just the people? There is.
Well, in terms of like senior, like leadership team, there is, because it's the efficiencies. So in terms of the finances, I mean, that's the driver, isn't it? They need, to pull some funds out.
Yeah.
How we've approached it at Stevenage initially was, what we looked at was the demand data, and understood what our kind of top 20 high demand processes were, which actually, when you looked at it, there were some things in there that we hadn't considered, that just weren't really on the kind of radar, really. So then we had a series of workshops where we met with those service areas, not just the managers, but the teams overall, and just started to kind of unpick why the demand was there, and what their challenges were around the process, and what worked well, how they felt the customers could self-serve in the future. Just trying to do some of that light touch stuff to draw out their kind of ideas without scaring everybody into, we're going digital, we're changing, that might mean you'll lose your job, that type of thing that people just don't want to hear. So it was just really kind of start to unpick it. So we did a series of those based on the top 20 of processes of demand on the business, and then have kind of taken it from there. And I think those workshops were the things that really started those conversations, and then people saying, well, what about this? We could do this online, but if we're going to look at doing this, and this, well, this other little process fits in really well with that as well. So we could expand it. So I think so it's kind of come up from the top, and then we've kind of gone in the middle and started having those conversations. So now when we kind of go knocking on doors and say, we're doing this over here, we think it's similar to this kind of medium demand area here, what do you think? They're much more kind of open to it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and just quickly for us, when you're talking about your top 20 sort of process and that sort of thing, you said there was some in there you wouldn't have thought about. Have you got any examples?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think what they were now. There was something around licensing, and I don't know whether it was something to do with food, or something like that. But and there was one in there, because we don't actually deliver licensing in customer services, and that's where we were getting the demand data from, because it's much easier, isn't it, to pull it out of our systems. And there was something else around housing development type stuff, and I thought, God, I didn't even know that was really a thing, but it was in that top 20.
Right.
So it obviously grown over the last kind of couple of years, and that's one thing with Granicus, and we put that system in February 2020, pandemic hit, and we hadn't developed the reporting element of it, which wasn't as easy as what we did. We used Dynamics before, which was fantastic for reporting, but we didn't have that real-time information, so it kind of crept in.
Right. Okay. Brilliant. Anybody else? In fact, just jump in. What let's.
I was going to say the efficiency thing's quite interesting, because we've always tried to express our efficiencies, if you like, in terms of these are resources that you can deploy elsewhere, rather than these are posts that you can delete. And that message seems to get received a lot better all round, really.
Yeah, and we try and do the same thing around, actually, it's about the customer experience. And if you can take it out of here, put this work here, and have some self-service, that actually you've got more scope then to develop. I think it's really just being the financial position, especially coming out of the pandemic. So I think at different times, they're looking at it slightly differently. So I think it just depends on what the pressures are in that moment, really.
We find, I think, during our process mapping stage to be quite a key time to get that buy-in, because it's actually, we use a tool called Engage, so you can really visually see what the current process is and what your to-be process will be. And I think it's at that point that services tend to realise actually just how complex and perhaps tricky their processes are, and certainly how uncustomer focused they are. And it just gets that conversation going, and that starts that real understanding of actually why we need to change things. And it's not, like you said, it's not actually about deleting posts. It's about getting that experience for the customer to be as good as it possibly can be. But we've definitely found Engage to be a really helpful tool for that.
Yeah, one of the biggest challenges we've had at Bedford is just trying to get people to stop thinking in verticals and start thinking in horizontals, to start thinking across the organization. So, as a customer, as we always say, our complexity isn't our customer's problem, that's our problem. So the fact that they want to report graffiti and manage to do it as a missed bin reporting, they don't care less, as long as the council deal with it. But, we've seen a lot of processes whereby we're so stuck in our old ways of thinking in just within our own service areas or within our own directorates, we're not actually looking at it from that customer experience point of view. And that's one of the key challenges and where the technology can help us.
Mm-hmm.
Stuart, are you finding sometimes that your processes are dictated to by the technology?
We try to do it the other way around.
Yeah.
We advocate that the processes shouldn't be managed by the technology. The technology should be supporting the processes. Yeah. It's the processes that should be king.
Yeah.
But a lot of time, it's around the data as much as anything. So something as simple as trees. We found we got 4 sets of master data on trees in the borough, depending on which service area you work in.
Right.
And then we got down to processes where we were being asked to actually ask the resident whether there's tarmac or grass around the trunk of the tree, because that will dictate whether it's a highways issue or a parks and open spaces issue.
Right. Yeah.
And we're just like, this is nuts. No. We got to start thinking about this from a customer perspective, not from an internal organizational perspective.
Brilliant, thank you. Andrew, I want to come to you quickly, just with regards to the culture at Bath and North East Somerset, and the appetite for change, especially because you're sort of working in and around children's services, which again, is one of these areas where people tend to sort of tread very carefully in and around that area. What's the appetite for service transformation and innovation at Bath and North East Somerset?
I'd say it's a good time for it at the moment. We got a new chief exec within the last 2 years, and he's been pushing to improve across the organisation. So there is that from the top down. There's also a recognition that, obviously I'm a developer, that a lot of stuff is moving digital, and you need the team to support it. So I think we are starting to invest more in IT generally. Which is, it affects what we can deliver if we're trying to digitize stuff. Within children's services, there's some resistance, but not really from the senior side, I would say. There's quite a lot of different cultures within there, I think. It's still fairly new to me, although I've been working on a solution. The overall children's services picture is very large and complicated. There's lots of external groups, schools, all these different childcare providers, family support.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you the full list. A lot of them have got their own ways of working. So yeah, you need to try and drive a culture shift. And that's tricky within your own council, but when you're trying to get across to other organisations as well, it's quite a big challenge.
Excellent, thanks, Andrew. Anyone else got any sort of comments about their own particular organisation's appetite and culture, change culture? Karen.
Yeah, I was a couple of things. One question I was going to ask is anyone using the Microsoft 365 platform to deliver applications or internal efficiencies? Because we're using that quite heavily now, and we've kind of empowered people out in the business to go ahead and develop their own solutions, and through that we've been able to address some of the long-standing manual process issues that we had in areas such as legal, health and safety, asset management, freedom of information, and mobile applications out on site. And I just wondered if anyone else had kind of adopted that approach.
Hey, well, first of all, thank you very much for a great question. It segues into sort of talking about technology and that sort of thing. So first of all, is anyone else using Microsoft 365 in the same way that Karen is? Unfortunately not, Karen,
no.
At the moment. However, but you're sort of obviously using it in that sort of platform approach, a bit like Tewkesbury and South Hams and West Devon, I guess, are using Liberty Create.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and I guess both to Tewkesbury and South Hams and West Devon, I'm assuming that, well, again, I'm not assuming, I've read your awards submissions. You've both delivered significant numbers of processes in a very, very short space of time. I guess within a time of crisis, when there'll have been additional pressures on the organisation, and I'm assuming because of the climate and the culture within both your organisations, but also the technology, because I have been banging on about low code for some time, but I'm assuming having that ability to develop and manage systems internally without having to go out to a third-party technology provider has certainly been providing more power to your elbow when sort of doing this sort of stuff, especially during a crisis. I mean, the sort of sums of money that I've heard people having to spend to get certain forms, grant forms, forms for shielding people, for people to volunteer, has been fairly sort of significant. So to either or both of you, how has the what role has the technology played in your sort of transformation award wins, do you think? I'll go to you first, Mike. I can see you on the cusp of as head
Do you know
of
what I
IT.
was? Do you know what I was thinking at the time though? It's given, you know, I suppose particularly Jim's team have been victims of their own successes, because what it has meant now, because we can develop and deploy applications really quickly and iterate them and so on, is that there seems to be an expectation amongst members and the leadership now that these new processes promises can be made, if you like, regarding delivery of a service within days. Right. And then there's an expectation that, well, what would have taken weeks, you know, that, you know, we can deliver in days, but it's almost become like it's taken for granted now. And I think it puts a lot of people under, to some extent, even more pressure. And you know, the results are phenomenal, but it doesn't seem to have helped in terms of delivering the workload, if you like. It's just up to the pace, which is interesting.
Has this demand aged you somewhat?
Well, if we misquote, is it Parkinson's law that for us, work expands to fill the capacity available? That as we've become a lot faster in developing and delivering processes, that actually more people now come to us to do that. The real advantage of it though is that all the stuff that we're in control of, we can deliver and we can prioritize and we can focus on. All the stuff that's not in our control is all the stuff that adds all the delays. We can choose as a team to get everybody focusing on one specific aim because it's important. So at the moment we've got a refugee process that the whole team's currently testing so that we can get the money out to the Ukrainian refugees as they come over. So we can choose to do that. If we had a third-party company that was delivering that, sure, we can get a project manager to hassle them and send 10 emails a day, but there's actually limited. We can change things in a very, very limited way. Whereas being under our control, we can just adapt and flex.
And is there and I'll come to Tewkesbury the same question, but so I guess at the moment you've got a team of builders that people are coming to, but so you don't necessarily have a sort of citizen developer strategy. You know, is there any plan to at any point spin out so that, you know, in each service area there is a builder who might build to a certain, you know, you have a set of standards, you know, you build to this set of standards, and you could almost be the sort of the super user that says, right, you know, you build it, but you know, we have to approve it before it's...
I would say no to this, right. Purely because one of the issues that we're finding. So we're a couple of small councils. Yeah. We're not the kind of the size of Birmingham. We haven't got thousands of people. So a lot of our people do multiple roles.
Yeah.
And the big issue that we find now in trying to optimize more and more and more is this difference between local and global optimization. So local aims, this department wants this thing, but actually they might save a little bit of money here, but it's not about saving a little bit of money here. It's about saving money overall for the council.
Yeah.
So the more kind of siloed and individual you get people thinking about problems, the more you get local solutions rather than thinking about these kind of global solutions. And that's kind of where we need to go. That's where the savings are in these kind of bigger, more widespread thinking about the problems.
Brilliant. Thanks, Jim. Mike, do you want to expand on that, or can I pop over to Tewkesbury?
I can't expand on that. Yeah, go to Tewkesbury.
Brilliant. Thanks very much. Tewkesbury. Lovely Tewkesbury.
Yeah, I mean, we've taken the approach that we as a team develop on the platform. We've got no kind of, I mean, we do have people in the different service areas that probably could work with the system, you know, and build like a certain level of interfaces and forms and things. Yeah, I mean,
I just said realistically, I mean, we can't quite get people across the services doing things properly on the website. So we just to let something like the development of new digital services go out there. No, that's not the approach that we're taking. I mean, I would also say I think that as a team, and certainly from the technical side, there's a lot of additional coding that we do for our services that wouldn't get done out in the services. So
yeah, I mean, we've got a lot of different like presenters and ways that we would put information out as like a standard for us. which, you know, I think you probably could get around it as a kind of QA element to the process where it comes through us and we do a few bits to it before it goes out live. But yeah, I mean, the approach we've decided is that it just all comes through us.
And one, I'd add that one of the battles we've always had is who owns the processes. So if we design a waste process, is it waste process or is it our process? And it's always been a battle. We've had this kind of concept of like a design authority, and that who needs to decide, because if you work with waste, the big thing they don't want to do is ever send a van anywhere. The thing that they're most worried about is using diesel. That's their big thing, irrespective of whether that's good or bad for the customer. And in order to stop a van going out once, they will gladly create a process where there's 15, 20 emails, 5 phone calls, and those sort of things. But that, and again, it's talking about these global, local solutions. It saves them money, but it costs the council lots of money. And overall, and it's that's the problem, is the more narrow you go, the more blinkered the focus.
Yeah. Brilliant. Cheers,
Yeah,
Jim.
I think Jim's right, and I think to have you know, a group of people like myself and Jim as an overall design authority gives that, you know, that thoroughness and that scrutiny to all the things that surround a process as well. Like, okay, you're doing a web process, but what happens if someone rings up? How's that going to work in terms of payment and things like that? And we have fallen foul of that this year. You know, what we're going to do about who's going to enforce the fact that we do I don't know, a data impact assessment, who's a data asset owner, all the things that local development, if you like, wouldn't think of, but somebody in the centre that owns the quality of these processes can oversee, really. And one of the things I'm hoping to do as our existing sort of migration sort of is completed is to train my developers up again in low code, so that it's our platform of choice in IT, rather than thinking about, oh, let's just put something together in .NET. Let's see if we can build on the low code platform first, and only resort to .NET if we struggle. I'm not there yet, but that's the plan, because I think if we don't have more people that are really technically competent in the low code platform, then you know, the authorities just get unduly exposed to, you know, staff changes and things like that.
Brilliant. Excellent. I'm very interested to understand what the vision is moving forward. I mean, for 2 award-winning digital transformation teams. I'll come to Tewkesbury first. Claire, what's the vision? Where are you going to next? You're award-winning.
Yeah, so
that includes Joe.
Yeah, officially.
Anyway. You know, where next? Where do you go to next? What's on the, you know, what's on your plan? What's on the map? Where are you going to?
I mean, obviously we won bronze, so we want either silver or gold. That's next. But yeah, we've just had our digital approach for the next couple of years approved by members, and that sets out our 2-year program, which we've kind of said from the outset is agile in itself. You know, we're going to review it very regularly, because things do come in unexpectedly, and that has an impact on what we're delivering. But it's just to keep going and attack those services that we've not got to yet. We've got a lot of work going on in our planning department. There's a whole service review going on there, and so we know that there's many opportunities to improve processes there and introduce some digital options. So that'll be a big part of what we're doing. We're looking at some internal stuff around HR, which looks to be quite transformational for staff, which is great. We're going to continue building on our paperless billing, which is pretty much there, but there's additional work to be doing. What else have we got going on? Loads. We've done a really nice bit for room bookings, which we're finishing off. And licensing. Yeah, licensing is another big area for us.
But this sounds like you know, it's in fact, digital transformation is probably not a great it's not the right phrase, because transformation alludes to the fact that it changes once, but actually this is like digital evolution. You're constantly going to be working on stuff, aren't you? Always improving.
Yeah,
always changing.
Yeah, we have set aside time as well in our work plan to revisit what we've done already, you know, because that is the agile nature of the way we work, we need to keep going back and making sure it's working and using feedback to continue to improve it. But yeah, you're right. It's digital transformation is not quite right, is it?
Yes, it's you know, through process improvement and low code, you have basically made yourselves you know, employable by Tewkesbury for the rest of your lives, if you so wish. And long may it continue. Well, if you want to stay there. Don't worry, only you guys will get to see this video, not anybody else at Tewkesbury. Mike, Jim, you know, what's next for you guys?
For me. Well, for me, the first question you're asking about what should be award winning, which obviously changed for our question, but so I developed something called the work optimization tool. It's a terrible name for it, but it basically prioritizes work in a smart manner. It's really complicated but really easy to use, and we implemented it with Civica, and obviously the rolling out to the new systems, we had to kind of like de-implement it, and I want to re-implement it with Liberty, and that'll be for revenues and benefits, it'll be for planning, for environmental health, and for any other areas that we can get, and it just enables kind of smart prioritization of work, and significant, I mean 25% productivity jumps without anyone really having to do anything differently. So that's my aim for this year, to get that fully re-implemented, and my sub aim is to try and stop as many unsolicited emails from customers to the council as possible. That's everything coming in on a web form. Yeah, everything coming in on a web form, rather than, which basically means that the customer does the indexing for us. That's my kind of other aim that I want to achieve.
Brilliant. Getting rid of unstructured data. That should be the top of everyone's
Yeah,
list.
yeah, and to get everything coming into the same queue as well. I know it's not Liberty Create, but it's very close to it. If you know, in Liberty Connect, to get, if we do get emails, then let's get them into the same queue as the phones and the web chat, and you know, scanned images even, and so that everything can be dealt with by the same team in a consistent way, rather than, you know, emails going to, you know, specialist areas, and a telephone conversation about the same subject ends up going to the contact center. Well, actually, we want it all to go in the same place and either be dealt with there or raised as a process in Liberty Create. So it's a better customer experience, it's more consistent, and of course it's better for management reporting and performance and so on as well. So it would be lovely to get that in this year.
Brilliant. So there's plenty going on in both Tewkesbury and South Hams and Western Devon. Does anyone have any questions for our speakers at all? I'm mindful, obviously, that I've warbled on and asked questions, but does anyone have any questions? Because ask them now, because for once I'm actually on time. And I can see Tewkesbury are all ready to pop off for a coffee. Any questions? Right, I'm not going to ask again. Thank you very much. A round of applause, both in real life, and just remind myself where this. There you go. Party poppers as well. Don't usually do those, but yeah, there you go. Joe, Claire, Amy, brilliant to see you again. You know, I might send a couple of pictures down to Tewkesbury just to put on those walls, because they
yeah.
You know,
Please do.
Yeah. It's very minimalist, isn't it? Very brutalist, I think.
We are about to go through a refurbishment, just to reassure you.
Oh, right, okay, excellent. Hopefully not like Boris's.
No.
He went, so no. I might try and find some pictures. And Jim and Mike, excellent. Thank you very much. Brilliant contributions once again. Hopefully at some point we can come down to Exeter or somewhere else in the wonderful southwest. We can go to I can't even remember where we used to go to now. Oh, the rugby ground.
Yep.
Exeter Chiefs, yes, and we can hook up again in real life. Thank you very much, people, for attending and contributing. You've been wonderful. Have a great day and catch up real soon. Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye now.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.